Hi, today I am doing how to make a fancy gentleman pusheen plushie, and this is what it's gonna look like. How stinking cute. It's the back. I started my very first YouTube channel when I was in 5th grade. I'm in my mid-20s now. I started by making felt plushie tutorials filmed on my iPod Touch, if you remember iPod Touches. I actually have one of my childhood plushies right here. This is a little moling. I love this one so much. This is my favorite out of like all the ones I've ever made. And I thought it would be really fun, like full circle moment, to do a plushie tutorial again, but also teach you some really important hand sewing techniques and stitches that you can apply to other things. I've always been the person in my household to fix people's clothes. My dad worked manual labor and was always ripping his pants, so I always fell back on hand sewing. My grandma taught me how to hand sew when I was 8 or 9 years old. So well over 10 years I have been hand sewing, and yeah, I just think it's a really important skill for you to have, and what better way to teach you than to do a little gentleman pusheen. I love his mustache so much. I also have, from my childhood, the little templates. This is how I would store all my little templates. The person who inspired me to start making felt plushies was Tammy Hallam. Thankfully, all her YouTube videos are still up. I'm so grateful, because a couple of the other plushie makers I used to watch, like B4A Studios, and I go at Happy Shop Friends, but Tammy's are still up. So if there's something you don't understand that I'm saying, definitely I will leave Tammy's channel and YouTube tutorials linked in the description. And of course, I made a template so that you can cut everything and follow along, and here's like the reference for all the placements. I'm so excited. So this is like a printable. You can download it from my website, so that's really fun. The link will be in the description. As an adult now, I repair and fix and mend and tailor my husband's clothes, which is really fun. And most recently, the projects I've been working on, besides the little gentleman pusheen, I've been making pouches here and there. I made 2 of these little like makeup bags. I sold one on my Depop. It's really nice and structured, and then it has like my little bunny art screen print. I love the little handles. Definitely made with love. I love this so much. It's the perfect size for like art supplies or makeup or whatever. Super cute, and I'm really proud of like how neat it came out. I plan on making more. I've had these like just sitting for so long. There's like more patches, and then these were gonna be like zipper pouches. I just haven't gotten around to doing it because sewing takes so long, but I did do that again by hand. I'm going to be teaching you 3 stitches, and then I'm going to include a clip on a 4th stitch that I find really handy. All of these because I hate the running stitch with a burning passion, and I will die on that hill. It can be decorative. It can be. Sorry about the super long intro. Let's get into making the little gentleman pusheen. For this tutorial, you're going to need dark gray, light gray, black, brown, white thread, and matching felt. The dark gray is kind of optional. You can choose to make pusheen stripes black, but I like the contrast between the 3 colors. And for felt, I actually found these packs at Daiso. I'm going to be using this one for the mustache, and then for the grayscale neutrals, I'm going to be using these 3. This medium gray is heathered. If you wanted to do like a true plain gray, they sell this color at Hobby Lobby. I'm kind of undecided, so I'm gonna cut out the gray pieces last. Then you're gonna need the template. The link for the template will be down in the description. You can print it out at 100%. I printed this one out at 94%, and this is the size in comparison to my hand. You can go even smaller if you want it smaller. On my website, I'll have both this template, and also I made a template for the pugsheen. So cute. I don't think I'll be making him in this video, and I don't know when I would make a tutorial, but I also really love pusheen, so I thought I would include that as well. I also printed these on cardstock. It's up to you. You can use normal paper, or you can put a sheet of paper over your computer and trace it that way. That's what I would do growing up. The next thing you're going to need is some fabric scissors, a sewing needle, something to trace the template with, or you can use pins to pin the template in place so you can cut it out. My favorite right now is chalk, but these are also pretty nifty, and I included a color pencil here just in case because I feel this is the most accessible thing for most people. Maybe your little sibling has a color pencil that you can borrow. Next, you will need some stuffing. And last but not least, if you're turning this into a keychain, you will need findings of your choice. Down here is what we used to use back in the 2010s. I actually have this jar from 2012. It was my baby sister's baby food at the time, and so I have tons of little buttons and findings in here. These little findings were super duper popular. We used to get them on eBay back in the day, but nowadays you can find them pretty much anywhere. Etsy, eBay, even sometimes at craft stores like Hobby Lobby and Michael's. And ribbon, this is kind of how we used to do it back in the day. And the only thing is the ribbon will get destroyed over time. It's just a guarantee. A lot of my childhood plushies at my mom's house, and the ribbon is always the first thing to give out. So you can use a cord. I'll put a picture. A professional plushie will have a cord, and it will have one of these. So I have a couple of these big plastic lobster. Is probably what I will be using today. I also have these. I have no clue where I got them, but these are really nice. They were just in my little jar. And I'm also going to be using these. I remember a couple of YouTubers having something similar back in the day, so I'm going to be using a white pearl heart with the gray. I got this little jar at Daiso as well. The first thing we are going to do is cut out all the pieces to the template. So using the brown felt, I'm going to cut out one little brown mustache. I traced it using the chalk, and now I'm just going to cut it out. Just like that. Now I'm going to cut out two hats. You could fold the fabric and then cut it. And then two black little eyes. Just like that. Don't mind all the little scuffs and stuff. I do a lot of arts and crafts here, so. Next, on the white felt, you're going to want to trace out two of the little white triangles. This is the ribbon on the hat. You're going to trace and cut out one white circle. This is going to be for the monocle. This one is going to be the most tedious, annoying part of the template. You're going to cut out two of each of the tail stripes, three of the head stripes, and then two of each of the body stripes, all in the dark gray, or you can use black, up to you, whatever you have available. That one was pretty painful, but here they are all done. They're not perfect, but close enough, and I think it'll just add to the handmade charm of the plushie. So this is going to be for the front face, front and back of the stripe, and then front and back of the tail. Last but not least, we're going to cut out two of the big bodies, two of the tails, and then four little patitas. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our gray thread and we're going to thread the needle. You can always cut the edge off for a fresh, clean edge. You can lick the string to ensure that all the fibers are going the same way, or the easiest method is to use something like this. This is a needle threader. If you buy a sewing kit, my friend Sabina just gifted me this one. Thank you so much. I don't know if she's watching this video, but in sewing kits, they always come with a needle threader. That's what this thing is. A lot of people don't know that that's a needle threader. I love these so much. I got this one at Hobby Lobby. To use a needle threader, you're gonna fit it through the hole, and then you're going to put the thread through the big hole, and then you're going to just pull it through. Super duper easy. I don't like the tail to be too long, maybe a little over a foot. That's the easiest for me to work. I'd rather just have to rethread the needle many times than deal with tangled up thread. That is the worst. Also, don't mind my thumb, literally like the most important finger that's gonna be on camera. The nail polish came off. I was peeling a sticker for a letter to my pen pal, and yeah, the whole nail came off. So I think when people think of hand sewing, their instinct is to do this number right here, to just weave in and out. And it's called a running stitch, and I actually hate the running stitch. In my opinion, the running stitch is a temporary placement. It's not very secure, it's not very neat. Sometimes it can be used for decoration within like quilting and embroidery. I think that's chill. I made sure I wasn't just being a hater for nothing, but Google confirmed my suspicions. Like, it'll say if you're gonna add like applique, normally you would use a running stitch as a placeholder for a more secure stitch, or if you're gonna be gathering, then the running stitch will help you gather like this, and normally you would do a more secure stitch on top to keep the gathering like that. But I know some artists really like to use it, so to each their own. I want better for you watching. If you're watching this, I want you to have a tool belt of more secure, neat looking stitches, and the running stitch is just not that for me. So now that we have threaded the needle, we're going to tie a knot. There's a couple different ways to do this. Some people wrap it around the needle. I just make a loop and then I fit it through the loop, and I do that a couple times. Here's the loop, and then I put it through like that and pull through. I like a nice big chunky knot. We are going to start by sewing on the little stripes. Wherever you place the stripes, you're just gonna want to ensure when you sew your top hat down, the stripes will still be showing. You don't want to put them like too far above. I mean, it should line up pretty okay with the template, but you know, sometimes when you're cutting out the template, it doesn't quite show up. So what I'm going to teach you is called a felt stitch. I actually use this one a lot. So you're going to start by putting the needle into the fabric of the top layer, just like a couple millimeters in, maybe 1 or 2, and then you're going to bring the needle right on top on the outside. So you're going to make a straight line going outwards. And when you pull, the tension's pretty important. If you pull too tight, then the fabric is going to start bunching everywhere. I don't know if I got that on camera, but you can see the little stitch right there. I'm going to show you again. So we're going to put it in a couple millimeters inside, pull through, then we're going to go directly the outside to make a straight line like that, and then we're going to pull through. Do it one more time. Sorry, my charm bracelet is pretty loud. A couple millimeters in, and then directly on the outside. For this top one to go on the outside, I'm just going to bring it around, but again, watch your tension so that you're not pulling the felt in and making it scrunched up. See how it got a little bit scrunched there? It's kind of unavoidable when you're wrapping it around like that, but totally fine. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. If you wanted, you could do a knot matching thread. I think I'm pretty happy with it like that. So I'm going to do the same with the next stripe. Once you get the hang of this, it's a really fast process. You just have to watch your tension. Tension is really big in sewing, whether you're, you know, hand sewing or you're using a machine. This is so therapeutic. Those are the little face stripes. Now it's up to you if you want to tie a knot here in the back. You would just go under one of the stitches and that'll give you a loop, and then you'll just fit the needle through the loop and that'll give you a knot. And you can snip it and restart this whole process, or you could just keep going and leave a little tail. I think the tail is fine. We're not going very far. I have the reference photo. So here you can see that I sewed on the back 2 stripes using the guide here. So now I am going to go ahead and tie a knot, put it under a stitch, go through the loop, and pull it all the way through. I do this maybe like 2 or 3 times. depending on how secure I need something. Now I'm just gonna cut it off. Next, we're gonna go ahead and do the eyes. I'm gonna thread the needle with black thread. Again, using the template as a guide for where I kind of want the eyes to be positioned. I also put the white circle underneath, and to do this, we're gonna do the felt stitch again. So I'm putting it in a couple millimeters in and then going directly out. Because it's black on black, you can actually be pretty messy with this and it'll still look okay. But again, just pay attention to your tension. Don't pull too hard or else your circles are not gonna look like circles. There's gonna be a little tail behind again. If you pull too hard, you're gonna have everything all folded. So just make sure, again, that you're paying attention. I'm just doing 4 little stitches, 1 on each side. Ta-da! Next, I'm going to thread the needle with white so that I can sew around the monocle. And we're gonna use a felt stitch all the way around. Next, we're going to do the little mustache and we'll be all done with his face. So I'm going to go ahead and thread the needle with my brown thread. I wanted to do like a cute background, but I didn't want it to be distracting. So again, I'm kind of just referencing the picture. And we're going to use a felt stitch, a couple millimeters in, directly outside. I do try to keep the distance between each little felt stitch pretty even, something I didn't really mention earlier. Here's what he's looking like so far. Yay! We're gonna put this piece aside for now. I actually have all my threads that I cut over here. And so I'm gonna take this bit of white and I'm going to rethread the needle with white. And I'm going to take the first little hat piece and the little ribbon. I'm gonna felt stitch the top and the bottom. You can do the sides as well. You don't have to though. Just like that, and we're gonna do the same thing to this one. Okay, now we got 2 little hats. We're gonna put those aside for now. Next, you're going to want to get the back piece and you're going to want to line up the little stripes. And you're just going to want to sew those on with a felt stitch and the dark gray thread. If you have a big piece of thread left over, I would just put that aside for now. We're going to need it again. You're going to take the front part again and we're going to slip the little patitas in here. And I'm going to be using this as my guide on where. And I'm going to carefully lift the top one up like that. And we're going to thread our needle with the light gray thread. Now what we're going to do is we are going to put a little stitch in each of these. So I'm going to start over here. Gonna feed it through here, and then we're gonna send it back, and we're gonna do that one more time, and send it back. And I'm trying to put the hole exactly where it was earlier so that way the stitches can line up. Doesn't have to be perfect. These aren't really going to be pulled on or anything. They're just there to help with placement so they don't move later. You're going to have a little tail there, so just be careful with your tension. I'm going to send it in exactly where it was earlier. And then I'm going to bring it back exactly the same or as close as I can get. Again, you could tie a knot here if you really want to ensure that the tension is fine, but as long as you're careful, you should be fine. To me, the speed you should be going depends on how fast you can watch the thread, because if you're pulling super fast and you're not able to keep up with what the thread is doing, you're more likely to get a knot. But if you're going slow enough to where you can see exactly what's going on, then you should be able to catch the thread before you get a knot. And if you get a knot, you might just have to pull the whole thing out and rethread and restart that whole thing. I'm procrastinating the tail a little bit. We're actually gonna do the whiskers, which is super duper fun. You can use embroidery floss to do the whiskers. It's gonna be like that thick. Or if you have normal black thread, you can double up on thread. When you have your final piece, you tie your knot, you'll have 4 pieces of thread. And that's how thick your whiskers will be. If you choose to get or use embroidery floss, you will need an embroidery needle with a bigger hole. If you practice your backstitch enough, you'll just be able to freehand it. So this is what I would use instead of a running stitch. It looks way more neat, it's way more secure because you're doubling back, but I know historically, I believe you sew away from you in like colonial America or something like that. I could be totally wrong, okay? Like, this is off the top of my... So we're gonna start a couple millimeters away from the end, and we're gonna bring it to the front, and then we're going to go back, hence the back stitch. You can just pull all the way through for now, like that, and then we're gonna go a couple millimeters forward again. You'll want to try to get these as uniform as possible to make it look the neatest. If you really take your time, it'll come out very beautiful. But you'll pull it through again, and then you'll insert the needle right where you started. We're gonna do that again. I'm actually going to turn it the next way to do this one. Now what I like to do that's a little bit more efficient, instead of, you know, pull it all the way out and then, you know, doing that over and over, I'll insert the needle back, and then this much sticking out, I will go ahead and insert it a little forward. So it's just kind of one motion. You'll have it like this, and then I pull it forward. It is a little bit easier, I think, to maybe make a crooked stitch this way if you're going too fast, but you could also go around the monocle. So to go around, we're going to do the exact same thing, but I'm gonna go right on the outside. This one I probably will pull it all the way through, just to make sure that this will look neat. My stomach really hurts. Oh yeah, I'm so glad that I chose to line it. Okay, I'm gonna tie a knot, and then I'm going to... I can't remember if it's away from you or towards you. Away from makes more sense to me. I am loving how this is turning out. Let's stop procrastinating doing the tail. So with the tail, you're gonna want to make sure that you're doing a front and a back, that you're not doing 2 fronts, you know? So if it helps to line it up and then place while they're together and then separate them, then I would just do that. I cut the stripes a little too short. Not sure if that was a template problem or a me problem. Either way, I think it's okay. And we are going to use a felt stitch to sew on both sides of each stripe. When you get to this end piece, I'm only sewing across the top line. Around we will sew later. So I have both tail pieces sewn up and I still have a tail here going. I'm going to line them up and we are going to do blanket stitch. So here is your third stitch tutorial. I have used a blanket stitch many times while making clothes. It makes for clean edges, nice and secure. There's like knots throughout. I love a good blanket stitch. It kind of takes the place of a zigzag stitch almost when you're finishing like a raw hem with a sewing machine. And on the left side, we are going to stick the needle in at the top corner. And we're going to go around and we are going to go through the right piece. And we're going to pull mostly all the way. You see how we have this loop? We are going to go through the loop and pull not too tight, just enough to where things are closed up. That's to start it. And then from there, we can go ahead and start from right to left, go through, pull most of the way, and then we have a loop. I want my thread to be matching colors. If you don't care, you can go ahead and blanket stitch the whole thing. And I'm going to send it through both again. Oh no. If this happens, you just want to re-loosen the loop. Go ahead and find where I'd like it to be placed. You can sew it on the inside if you want, but I'm gonna sew it on the outside just because I think it'd be kind of fun to have it peeking out of the back like that. And we are gonna go ahead and do a felt stitch. So I'm gonna send it and then place it right outside. And right outside. Just like that. And also, while I am up here, I'm going to grab my ribbon that I'm going to use for the keychain part. You can attach the keychain anywhere you want, but to me it makes the most sense to attach it over here. To fold my ribbon, I chose this beautiful ribbon and I'm going to find where I want it placed. Here, if you want, you can draw a box and you can backstitch that box, or you can go ahead and freehand it, but I'm going to use that same gray thread. But if you're not doing jump rings and you're just doing a little, maybe just this, then make sure this is on before you sew everything together. The reason why the back stitch is more secure is it kind of doubles up on itself. If you can kind of see, like, it's not just one little stitch holding on each millimeter of fabric. It definitely doubles up on itself many times. There's a YouTuber called Din Life. They make really beautiful, intricate toys and clothes using all back stitches for the most part, and invisible stitches, and their work is so beautiful it looks like a machine. You can tell they really take their time with each little stitch to make it as neat as possible. I'm going to leave the ribbon as long as I can, so here if it starts fraying up, it'll take at least a good while till it frays all the way up. Now all we need to do is the little hat. So I have threaded my needle with the black thread and we are going to attach the hat on both sides. This line should be in line with the corners, and we are going to felt stitch all the way around the bottom. So after I sewed on the back, we have a little tail here, and we're going to keep the little tail and we are going to start assembling. We're almost done. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Okay, so I'm gonna turn this around because I like to work, and we are going to start blanket stitching. So you're just gonna send it all the way through and go through the loop. Send it all the way through, go through the loop, send it. Now we are going to thread the needle with gray thread. So I'm gonna start over here and I'm gonna tuck the little knot away. Then I'm going to go through and then through the loop. And we're gonna blanket stitch all the way till we get to the ribbon, and then I'll show you what to do. Okay, my last blanket stitch went right up against the ribbon. On this side of the ribbon, I'm kind of just gonna hide it and send it to the front here. So you're gonna be at like a weird angle, and we're gonna do a fell stitch. So it's just like really paying attention to where your needle is entering. So here we're going in again at that weird angle to go to the inside, and when we exit, we're gonna wanna make sure that we can do the fell stitch. Again, enter in at a weird angle, exit to prep for the fell stitch, do the steep entrance, and fell prep exit. Okay, so here we're already at the end, so I'm just going to go ahead and do a blanket stitch. I'm not really known for being the best teacher, so I'm gonna have all of Tammy Hallam's here. I'm just gonna kind of move the tail out of the way and continue my blanket stitch. I'm gonna include all of Tammy Hallam's tutorials. I'm so glad that she left them up. We're gonna blanket stitch all the way to the feet. Once we got to the feet, I'm going to bring it to the front again for the fell stitch with more steps. So I'm gonna enter in at like crazy steep angle, go to the back side, do a fell stitch at a crazy steep angle, watching where I exit. And then in the middle of the little patitas, you can go ahead and do a blanket stitch. But then we're gonna go right back to the steep fell stitch. I'm going to stop right about here, and I'm gonna go ahead and stuff pusheen. You can stuff the hat if you want. I'm just gonna leave it flat. I kind of like the look of the little flat details. Like if you wanted, you could do a second layer here and things would be thicker like up here, but I don't know, I like the little kind of flappy detail that it adds being this way. I'm gonna start by stuffing it with all the little thread and stuff as not to waste it. And then I'm gonna go in with the stuffing. The YouTuber Din Life is very big on not wasting anything. Okay, I think that's all I want, and a blanket stitch all the way. Now all that's left for me to do is attach the findings. I ended up going with the little clip over the big clip. I don't know, it felt nostalgic to me. So I can't find my jump rings right now, but whenever I find my big jump rings, I will definitely attach one on there. Right now I tied it on with some thread. I think it came out super cute though. Here's the back. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you learned something, if you already knew how to sew. If you watched Tammy Hallam growing up, let me know. See you later, bro fist.